The CIS benchmarks are secure configuration recommendations for hardening specific technologies in an organization's environment. Each benchmark is the product of an ongoing consensus project involving the generous volunteer efforts of subject matter experts, technology vendors, public and private community members, academics, and the CIS benchmarks development team. CIS benchmarks are a key component of an organization's overall security against cyber attacks, and each CIS benchmark recommendation maps to the CIS critical security controls, or CIS controls. There are more than 100 CIS benchmarks across 25 plus vendor product families available through free PDF download for non-commercial use. CIS benchmarks coverage includes security guidelines that are applicable to cloud provider platforms and cloud services, containers, databases, desktop software, server software, mobile devices, network devices, and operating systems. Learn more about CIS benchmarks by visiting CISECURITY.org/benchmarks.
Listening to the Barcode Podcast with your host, Chris Glandon, serving cybersecurity straight up with no chaser. Let's hit the bar and grab a drink.
Chris, what's up, man?
Hey, Kyle. Long time no see, man. Busy night tonight.
Yes, sir. It's been nonstop. What you drinking?
Hey, guys. Sorry to bother you, but I'm wondering if you could help me out real quick. I'm not from around here, and my GPS stopped working in my truck. I'm not getting a signal for some reason, and I need some direction if you don't mind.
You got it. You came to the right place. Where can we guide you to?
I'm looking for a place called Barcode.
This is it, man. You found it.
No shit.
Yeah, bro. What's your name?
You can call me Bobby.
Pull up a bar stool, Bobby. First one's on me.
And since you're new here, Bobby, I'm going to school you on how we do it here at Barcode with a drink called the Class Act. Here's how you make it. 1 dash of Southern Comfort, 1 ounce of Advocate, ½ ounce of coconut rum, and to top it off, 2 ounces of pineapple juice.
Wow, that's actually pretty good, Kyle. I like it here already.
Well, speaking of GPS, a true security career navigator just walked in. I'll catch y'all later.
All right, Chris, I'll see you next round.
I'll take another.
Alyssa Miller is a lifelong hacker turned executive, an internationally recognized public speaker and author. She has over 2 decades of experience in technology and cybersecurity. Alyssa, thanks so much for stopping by Barcode.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Chris. It's really good to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Would you mind just talking a little bit about your background in hacking and, how that passion led you on a journey into a full-blown cybersecurity career?
So, you said it at the beginning, I know I gave you that bio, but I tell people that all the time, lifelong hacker, because I really have been. First of all, I was the kid who always liked to take my toys apart and figure out how they worked. So that kind of right there, pretty iconic of the hacker mindset. But, I was 4 years old. My dad brought home a computer from work. So it was a big Zenith Heathkit for anyone that goes back that far. 8-inch floppy disks, by the way. Because he kind of pioneered work from home, right? He brought this thing home over the holidays because he was an accountant, they were converting the books, and he didn't want to go into the office where there was going to be no one but him there for, the 2 weeks over the holiday times. So he brought it home. And when he wasn't working on it, he let me play video games on it. So that got me started in computers. Then it was Mr. Wizard, watching him with computers on his show. As a kid, we had computers at my school. We were actually fortunate enough that early on we had TRS-80s. Later, we got into complete Apple labs thanks to, I forget what they called it, but Apple did this whole like box tops thing with schools, and they could get a bunch of funding for Apple computers. But when I was 12 is really when it kind of took off, because I decided I wanted my own computer. It's 1989. Yeah, you can now figure out my age, but my OSINT is crap anyway. So, or my OPSEC rather is crap. So you can find out anything.
I was going to disclose that later, but
right. But no, seriously though. So I went out, got a paper route, and saved up about $1,000, went to Best Buy and bought an Epson 8086 computers, an Epson Equity 1 Plus. I actually remember that. And I later on I got a modem for it, and I started messing around with Prodigy. Again, I'm really dating myself. Everybody's like, God, this chick is so old.
Everyone that's listening is looking this up, though.
Right. I mean, I'm hopeful that there's some children of the 80s who remember Prodigy. I mean, it was a competitor to AOL, right? So they send you the discs and you get 50 free hours. And then after that, of course, you have to pay for a subscription. And well, I'm 12 years old. I'm not going to pay for I didn't have a credit card. How am I going to do that? Went to the library, started reading up on like UART and serial comms and the whole 9 yard. And like, I ended up hacking into Prodigy. And yes, I've looked. I am well past the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act's statute of limitations, so I'm safe here talking about it.
Yes, yes.
But nowadays obviously they watch for that stuff a little bit more, and you'd probably get arrested, and it wouldn't go so well. But at the time, it was the thing. And then I found my way into like the IRC channels on Undernet when the internet became a thing. That was late teens, or actually I guess mid-teens even, and early in my college career. So I grew up in kind of that hacker culture in those places. We were slapping people with a trout and whatever.
Now, were your friends into it too? Like, were you surrounded by friends that were into that, or were you sort of a loner in that space?
That's the thing. I was kind of, I don't want to say I didn't have friends. I did, but, I didn't have a lot of friends in school. I was bullied in school. It was, and so the hacker community was like kind of, those were my people, right? They were the geeks who loved computers, loved taking things apart. Guys would come in there talking about freaking and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Tried out a few techniques at, different locations for different reasons, but, it was really cool. They were just the people that I identified with. But
now, were you getting all this intel online, or did you actually know people that you?
Oh, these were all just people I knew online. I didn't know any of these people in real life, but that was the magic of it, right? Yes. Like no one knew anybody from anything. You didn't know anybody's background. You didn't really care. All we cared about was we were there to talk about hacks, and people were jerks to each other sometimes, and. But at the end of the day, it was like, these were my people. We all kind of understood how each other thought. And that's what we wanted to do. We just wanted to, we wanted to deal with the digital computer systems that most people thought we were like insane for. Even in the early 90s, with the internet starting to do its thing, a lot of people still didn't get it. Like, oh, you just want to work on computers all day? Well, yeah, because they're cool. They're awesome. Look at this stuff. And of course, again, you had like, other people who were hacking other things, but it was, it was interesting, and I didn't see it as a career though. I never thought that, this could be a job. So, I actually went to college for pre-med. I had no intentions of getting into tech at all, but I'll tell you what, 3 semesters of college level chemistry will wake you up to whether or not you actually want to be a doctor. And I did not want any piece of that. So scrambling to find a new major, found out they had a computer science program. I already knew how to program. I'd already taught myself BASIC and C++. And so I'm like, oh, this will be simple. bounced around, ended up in a couple different degrees. I did CS at first, then I moved into like an MIS degree. And I think my final that I actually graduated with was like back there somewhere. Just information technology or whatever was the name. But while I was in school still, I got my first job. I was 19, going to school full time, got a job as a programmer for a local company that was in financial services. And, it was the .com era. Like, they would take anybody who knew how to program anything. And, so that got me in the door into tech. And then it was 9 years later, someone from the security team who I'd worked with said, "Hey, you want to join my pen testing team?" And I'm like, pen testing? I don't know how to do that. Okay, girl, yeah, you did. I found out quick. I really did. But I ended up leading that team. 15 years with that company. I got out, decided I want to see the rest of the world, got into consulting for a while. I bounced through, some roles with a couple different companies in like the vendor space. So a reseller and then a vendor. And then I landed very beginning of last year at a place called S&P Global, which most people know because it's, they own the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, kind of important things that people have heard of at least once or twice. And so that was like my first foray into like true executive roles, right? I mean, I consulted with executives, but never, wasn't actually myself in an executive role until that point. And then, more recently landed in the CISO role at Epic Global. I told someone today, my new rule, I only work for companies that have global in the name. S&P Global, now Epic Global. I don't know who it'll be next. But no, so that's hacking. That's actually my whole career history in a nutshell.
I think you ran through that in like 5 minutes, so that's very impressive.
Well, it didn't take the whole show, so that's good.
No, that's good, because I do want to get into more, but congratulations on the new position. I'm sure you'll kill it. I'm curious to know what you explained in your passion growing up and hacking. Mm-hmm. How does that transfer over to a leadership role? Are you able to tap into that passion with your current role and having that, leadership responsibility?
Oh, I think so. I mean, first of all, the tech side hasn't escaped me totally. I mean, I don't pen test anymore. I don't know that I could really break into systems much anymore. But I mean, as early as 2 years ago, I was, I bought a GPU and, started messing around with deep fakes and, just all the stuff in TensorFlow to build machine learning models and some of the deep fake tools. So I enjoyed that and I still use that today, right? But when it comes to the executive roles, there's a couple things. First of all, the former hacker persona, like I'll be honest, you can walk into a board meeting and that's kind of part of your bio. They actually think it's really cool, right? Yeah. Like it actually gives you a certain level of credibility.
Yes. And it's not common either.
No, it's not, right? And there's good reason for that, quite honestly. Because what you do find out when I think there's a lot of people out there who kind of see like a CISO role as, the epitome of a cybersecurity career. Maybe it is for some. But as you start getting into those leadership roles and the higher you go, the more you realize it is less and less and less about cybersecurity. It is more and more and more and more about understanding how business functions and understanding the role that cybersecurity can play in that. But it is a lot less about ones and zeros or, what controls and things we're putting in place. Yeah, that's all still necessary. It's a part of it. So actually, ironically enough, I'm giving a talk next week on hacking the boardroom.
Nice.
Where you talk about this idea, the way I look at it is I've had to learn the same things that I used in that curiosity, that passion, that want to understand how something functions and, how to manipulate it to make it work the way I want to is exactly what I do when I walk into a boardroom. So, at S&P, I reported into 7 regulatory boards and a corporate board. So that's a lot, right? I mean, I learn it fast. I'd done some board presentations before that, but really S&P opened that door for me to really dig in. And I did. I spent a lot of time just looking through resources, understanding, okay, how do boards work? Like what do they actually do? What is a typical board meeting like? Like I've seen, I've gone in and do an hour-long presentation, but when they do board meetings, they come for like 2 days, right? And they get all their updates and everything else. I'm like, what is that like? What are these different meetings like? So yeah, I did a lot of research. I read, and by research, I mean reading different books, talking to people who serve on boards. I also have the fortune of being able to serve on the board of an organization now myself. So I get to see a little bit of that world, as well as I'm on the board for 2 conferences as well. A little different field, but similar kind of idea. And so, I used that to understand, all right, well, this is what they're used to doing. Now, how do I use that to get them to react to me the way I want, right? How do I get them to, so it's a little bit of social engineering. It's a little bit of hacking. But at the end of the day, it is still just understanding how that particular system works and where it's vulnerable, how I can exploit that vulnerability, so to speak, to, gain the response and the action that I want. Now, maybe a little less nefarious. I mean, I was never really a nefarious hacker. I never saw the value in like breaking things for people. But, it is at least like I'm trying to do good, right? I'm trying to get these people to think differently because, cybersecurity all too much is just looked at as still today, that cost center. And so it's really about how do I get them to see that what I'm doing is actually really cool for their business. It's like something that's going to help them drive revenue. It's going to help them grow and innovate. And those are the things that are really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like that psychology is sort of embedded in you, being able to just think differently, be able to do the mental research and understand how things work, and then try to use that as an advantage? Oh,
totally. I mean, it's, I'll be blunt. It's how I look at the world. It's just, it's my way. Some people, are very good in other respects and they don't really care, like, how does their car function? Right. Or, how does this cool little, electronics thing. I mean, honestly, and oh God, I'm going to pick a fight with a lot of people right now. But the reason I use Android phones is because I can actually dig into it and figure out how it works. Apple doesn't want to let you see any of that. So that's why I've never really, and I'm not belittling Apple at all. Apple has their place and they're a great fit, in my opinion, in particular, for people who don't want to know all that stuff, don't want to customize it, don't want to have to know all that stuff, right? And don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously, MacBooks are great. I used to have a MacBook, and there's all sorts of reasons. So please don't blast me that I'm hating on Apple. I'm just telling you, that's why I choose, an Android phone in this case, because, you know what? For me, I like that I can customize it, manipulate it, do all those things. I can easily jailbreak it if I want to, because that's who I am. I mean, that's how I look at the world. Other people don't. And that's not, obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. There's not something noble about the fact that I like to, deconstruct all my technology and know how it works on the inside.
Yeah.
But that's how I just look at the world. And so when it comes to other things, people interactions between people, how I relate to other people, it's a lot of the same. Now, I would be awful. And I mean this, I would not be a good social engineer in the sense of like what some really cool people do with, social engineering, physical assessments, those types of things. I'd be the worst. Like, I'm a terrible liar. But what I do feel like I do well is I have a strong amount of empathy and can figure out kind of what people are thinking or what motivates them enough that I can figure out how to talk to them in the way that's going to be most meaningful to them.
Right.
So I'm not lying to them. I'm not, I wouldn't even call it manipulation.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking to the things that they care about, bringing them the information that they need in a way that they're going to understand it and be engaged with it. So
you can look for those indicators a lot faster than it would take someone else to get there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, some people, that's just not a skill that they particularly have or aren't really, developed in. And that's not a judgment of anybody. We all have things that we do well and things that we're not good at. I mean, I can give you a laundry list of things I'm not good at. But that just happens to be where I feel like I have a strong skill set. And I think it's why, I've gotten into leadership roles and why I enjoy the leadership roles, because doing that sort of thing is something I enjoy.
Got it. So let's fast forward up to 2022.
Yep.
As we go into 2023 now, how can someone break into cybersecurity right now at ground level? And let's take it from, I guess, an aspiring professional perspective and then maybe a career transitioner perspective.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird to me, honestly, because if you had told me, 10, 15 years ago that we would have all of these academic programs, all of this academic research happening, everything we were screaming about 15 years ago that we needed and didn't have, that we would have that now, and we still can't find people. And we would have this massive so-called talent gap. People couldn't see me doing the air quotes when I said that, but trust me, we'll get back to that in a minute, I'm sure. But I would have never believed it. I would have never believed that this would be where that with all of that in place, we would still be this awful at bringing talent into this industry. But the fact is we are. So when, I talk to people about, okay, how are you going to break into cybersecurity? It's not an easy thing because, you'll have hiring managers will tell you, well, I want to see passion. I can teach anybody the tools, but I want to see passion. And then they'll write a job description that has requirements for 42 different tools that you have to be expert in every one of them,
Yeah, I've seen it. Doesn't work.
And so then we wonder, okay, I'm looking for this unicorn. Why can't I find that unicorn? Well, how many organizations out there use the exact same tool set that you use? None. We all have our own mix of different tools. We all use them in our own way. So the first thing I tell people is if you're trying to break into cybersecurity and you're looking at those jobs, ignore all those bullet points, right? Like they're not there as checkboxes, even though some people like to treat them that way, and you will run into hiring managers who do that. The reality is they're never going to find that person that fills all those anyway. Certainly there is value in having that curiosity, demonstrating that curiosity, and learning and doing some things on your own. But the problem with all that is, I think we've told people to do that for a long time now. Do your, build labs and do all these things. Great. How do I put that on my resume? Oh, I don't know. Or, there it is, but that's not actual experience, so I'm just going to ignore that. Right. And that's what hiring managers do. And, so what I do tell people is at minimum, make some kind of content. If you're doing that type of work anyway, make some content, create videos, do a TikTok channel or a YouTube channel or whoever, write stuff on Medium. I don't care if you have 5 subscribers or, 10 people that follow you. Just put it out there. And put it out there in a consolidated place where now that is something you can put on a resume. And at least it says, hey, I did something in the cybersecurity community. Maybe it wasn't job expertise, but it was experience. It was a skill set I developed, and I've demonstrated it and used it to teach others. So at least you got something. And the smart hiring managers will see that and pick up on that, right? The other thing, and now I probably should have started here because this is the most fundamental part of it, but maybe you do some of those other things first. But the key here is know what you want to do in cybersecurity. You know what interests you. There is nothing more difficult for me, and I love helping people out and I love helping them get into the space. The most challenging aspects of helping people out are when they come to me and they say, hey, I really want to get into cybersecurity. Can you help me out? And I say, sure. What part of cybersecurity interests you? Because I don't know everything in cybersecurity. And if I can't directly help you, I'll connect you to someone I know who can, right? And then the response is, well, I just want to know all of it. Or I don't care what, I just want to get into cyber. Oh, okay. I mean, I get that. I love that that's what you want to do. And even if it's just because it's a hot field and there's money here and there's job security here and that's the only thing motivating you, that's okay. But you still got to figure out where you want to focus, because if you come in and you say, I just want to know it all, well, none of us do.
Yeah.
None of us ever will. So it's all about, just sort of figure out where your passion lies. What's the thing that you want to do?
So when you hit that point and they're like, I don't know where I want to go, is there a resource or somewhere that you can point them to get introduced to the different areas of cyber?
Are you setting me up to plug my book or what?
I mean, we can hit it right now. Yeah.
Yes. Legitimately, the book I wrote, Cybersecurity Career Guide, that is like one of the first things that it talks about. What is cybersecurity? What are the areas of cybersecurity? What's going on with hiring in cybersecurity? And then how do you discover your own passions and desires and that sort of thing? And so, to a little bit of a spoiler, one of the things I tell people to do is, just go out and read cybersecurity news sites. Go to pick like 5. Go to them and go through their headlines. Don't read this whole story. Just go through the headlines and grab 5 headlines on each. So we're talking 25 total headlines, right? Grab 5 headlines from each that interest you the most, that sound really cool or different. Put them all on a list. Now just look at that list. 25 is pretty manageable. It fits on one side of wide ruled loose leaf paper, if anybody still uses that. 1 per line. There are 25 lines. Yeah, I still remember.
Is there 25 lines?
Yeah, wide ruled paper, 8.5 by 11. Yes, I still remember that.
I never knew that.
Wow, tangents all over the place about how old Alyssa is. You take the 25 and you just look at those and you say, all right, let me identify the commonalities in them. What is the theme or themes that I can find in there? Are they about, now, as long as I understand, first of all, those different areas of cybersecurity, right? Like, what is it? Is it because they're talking about, some really cool investigation that somebody's doing, or, how people are addressing nation state actors, or some really cool hack that somebody just pulled off? What is that? What are the things? What's interesting you there? And then, that starts to give you that idea, because now you can start to take that and you can apply that back to, okay, where do these fit in terms of the different areas in cybersecurity? And now that starts to give you some sense of what interests you. So like if I'm really into like that whole investigation side of things, digital forensics, incident response might be the thing.
Yeah.
If you really like that kind of adrenaline rush of that situation, wow, get into incident response. I hate to say that it's fun, but it can be fun, right?
Absolutely.
And for some people, it's incredibly fun. Me, it means that I'm staying up at night, but that's the job I've chosen at this point. I have to, but
you're CISO, so you're staying up anyway.
Yeah, I'm there for those. That's just part of the job now. But so really just being able to do that, and I would say the same thing to somebody that wants to pivot.
Okay.
Now, the thing that might shape them more is they might have a better idea. Generally, they do. They have a little better idea of where they want to go, just because, especially if they're pivoting from one tech career into another in terms of cybersecurity now, you've probably been exposed to it. But if you've been working in just about any corporate organization, you've probably been exposed to your security team in some way. And so you probably have some knowledge. But still understanding, like, what is the role that would interest you? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a role that ties back to what you're doing now. Just because you're a network administrator now doesn't mean that you can't get into app security, right? Because you've probably been exposed to developers, or at least, the issues of what happens when people deploy software that your network's not ready for or something, right? I mean, you run into all that.
Yeah. So
you get a lot of the details. Maybe there's skills you got to shore up. But so knowing that is so fundamental to all of this. And it's surprising how many people don't. But then it's really just, okay, now I've got this. And now whether you're pivoting or you're coming in from completely, fresh out of school, or you're pivoting even from, say, a non-tech career, like say you're barista at Starbucks or you've worked at the Gap for the last 5 years, take a look at what skills you have. And then finding ways to tie those to skill sets, transferable skills, right? Things that kind of transcend one industry to another. Find those things. So, my infamous, if it's infamous, I don't know. My favorite metaphor here is the barista, right? So think about a barista at your local coffee shop. What do? They're standing there. They're taking a bunch of inputs really fast. If they're busy, they're getting inputs thrown at them from a number of different directions. They're processing those. They're breaking them down into tasks. They prioritize those tasks and execute them in the way that's going to be the most efficient, and then ultimately deliver a product. And many times they have to do all that while also figuring out maintenance activities and conducting those as well.
Yeah.
If I describe it in those terms, doesn't that sound a lot like what I'd ask a SOC analyst to do?
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what I tell people to focus on, because you got hiring managers standing there saying they'll teach you the technology. Well, if you can demonstrate to them that that's a skill set that you have and talk to them about that in those terms.
Yeah.
Not saying every hiring manager is ready for that either. They're not. Like, there's a lot of hiring managers. I'm still trying to influence hiring managers to understand this too. Like that, those transferable skills are the thing that are going to tell you if someone's going to be successful or not. It's not about whether or not they've written 100 Splunk queries before, right? We can teach them how to write Splunk queries. Splunk will train them for free in many cases, depending on your contract with Splunk. So, that's probably not the thing. I don't know why I'm picking on Splunk. I'm really not, but they're just such a handy example.
I can beep them out if you need me to.
I don't care. I don't think you're going to sue me for dropping their name like 6 times. That's marketing for them. So, but seriously though, and that's the thing. So understanding what really makes a candidate successful and how those, candidates understanding, this is something I actually do bring to the table, and valuing that, right? Don't downplay that, but value that is something truly you bring to the table that's of value to that organization.
So I didn't come up through academia, right? I didn't follow a formalized program when I got into cybersecurity. So I was always fascinated with the aspect of the unwritten education. Like, to me, it's impossible to teach culture. It's impossible to learn how to obtain tribal knowledge, the unseen rules when getting into cybersecurity, the pitfalls to avoid. So I'm curious, like, in the time that you were on the practitioner side and leadership side, do you have any advice for those elements that aren't taught within the classroom?
I think seeing the bigger picture outside of cybersecurity, quite honestly. I mean, it's great. You want to learn the concepts, right? And that's what academia is great for. They'll teach you the concepts, they'll teach you the frameworks, all the things. But when it comes to practically applying that in a business setting where most of us do this work, there's not that level of connection, right? Like, you don't see the bigger picture of, do I really need to require 14 character passwords because I know that those are, it's going to take X amount of time to crack that versus, crack a 8 character password. I think, some of that stuff gets missed. How do I even evaluate that in terms of business risk? Is it, can I look at a system and say, you know what? That system sits out there and all it does is consolidate and serve up publicly available information. That's probably not so important to me, right? And in terms of prioritizing my applications in my organization, yeah, it's important because it's probably driving revenue or whatever. So maybe the availability of it is important. But if someone compromises it and exposes that data, congrats.
Yeah.
You exposed a bunch of public data to the public. Good job. But so I think a lot of that context and how to make those practical applications is probably one of the things we miss the most.
Okay.
And then you mentioned it, right? I mean, I don't think there's any way for academia to really prepare a person for what it's like to work in a corporate environment where now it's not just about the cybersecurity strategy, but the personalities that you're going to encounter, how they are going to respond to the things that you want them to do. So you're going to say, you know what, we're implementing MFA on everything. Okay, what does that mean? Oh, it means you're going to need to have, this token on your phone, or worse yet, you're going to have to carry a token and you're going to have to use that to access every one of your applications. And then suddenly you get the pushback of, well, wait, that application authenticates people from outside our company too. How's that going to work? Oh, crap. How do we do that? Right. And that's the thing, all the way that security has to mesh with the rest of the business. It's getting better in some academic programs, but we still miss a lot of that. And I feel like, a lot of the people I've talked to coming out of school, that's the part that they don't really get to see. Unless they've done like an internship or something like that, that's, at least given them some level of that visibility.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you about internship or even mentorship. Like, how does mentorship fall into this equation? Can they help with that?
Mentors definitely can, and internships can. The issue with internships, by the way, is that unfortunately what happens all too often is we give the people menial tasks.
Right.
And that's all we do with them. Right. And to me, and that's not specific to cybersecurity either, right? I mean, look at what we do with interns in any number of industries. And that's kind of the thing, right? You give them some menial tasks that no one else wants to do that you want to get done cheap or free. I hate that also that we still do unpaid internships. I think that's a crock. So when I look at internships, one of the things I look at is how am I giving that person value? Because they're giving me work every day for a very cheap price. The payback to them should be that they're actually gaining some really solid knowledge. So I'm looking at, maybe I'm asking them to do some of the more repetitive, simple, whatever tasks that we need to get done, or low-hanging fruit that I just don't want to burn a bunch of resource hours from people I'm paying six figures to. How can I make sure that they're getting value back? Because that's the that should be the unwritten contract there, right? That they're getting that value. But mentors can fill a lot of that void too. Just helping people understand it. And where I see the biggest value in mentorship is the informal conversations, the informal setups. Like, I know a lot of people are like setting up really structured mentorships where, well, we meet once a month and we talk about career goals and we lay out a career plan, and that's all good. That's all really, really good. But I personally have always found I can deliver more value, and I got more value from my mentors when we just sat down and we shot the breeze, and they shared with me things that were going on in their job, what they were seeing, how they were reacting. I did the same, and we talked through each other's problems. We used each other as sounding boards. And yeah, that does go both ways. If you're a mentor, don't feel like that person on the other side of the table doesn't have anything to offer. They're an outside set of eyes with no preconceptions or biases from your organization.
Yeah.
Talk to them, like throw it past them, see what they say. It doesn't hurt to hear what they have to say, and they might say something that really clicks. So, I think that's where mentors being willing to share that and talk about their experience in their job day to day and what they see. And of course, also talking about challenges they've overcome in the past and how, and mistakes they made and how they corrected for that or whatever. That's valuable. That's really, really valuable for people, especially coming out of school with no real corporate experience.
Yeah, I really like the way that you phrase that in terms of it being a bi-directional mentorship. Like you're both going to be learning from both sides, and it should be, you know, that off the record type of conversation. I mean, that's the way that I like to have my conversations as well. So
it's just more natural.
Yeah.
And it's probably more enjoyable too.
Yes, agreed. So what are your thoughts on certifications? You know, that's a question I get often. Do I need a cert to get started in cybersecurity? Does it help?
It does help for two reasons. One, I think it does show a little bit of a commitment to like, yeah, this is something I'm chasing. Also, there's the much maligned idea of ATSs or applicant tracking systems that are looking for a cert. And if you don't enter a cert, you get knocked down in priority for the role, you know. So it does help to have something in there. Alphabet soup after your name is not helpful. Don't bother with it. Get a cert, especially if you're brand new and especially if you're paying for it yourself. Get a CompTIA cert. Seriously. The most attainable, affordable certs out there. Security Plus will give you that same broad scope of the CISSP without, of course, the same depth as the CISSP, but for a price that is at least more attainable. Still kind of tough for a lot of people, depending on where they're coming from, but way better than, you know, a few thousand for a, you know, EC Council or a, you know, God forbid, SANS with their $7,000 certs now. If you can't get your company, if you're not working for a company who is willing to pay for it, don't invest that kind of money in a cert. Get a CompTIA cert. I'm trying to think. There's another organization. I'm kicking myself. I can't think of their name now. You know, eLearn Security is now a part of another company. I can't think of who they merged with, but they always had really good material and certs. But yeah, get something that's affordable, just so you can put it in there. You can say, hey, I did this thing, you know. Sometimes even like AWS or, you know, Cisco. Well, Cisco's kind of tough. But even Microsoft, and they all, you know, Google, GCP, they all have security certs related to like their cloud environments. So if you're working in a company now that's using one of those, where maybe you can tie it to your current job, but also a security job, sometimes that's a cool way to get certs paid for. But yeah, certs at the end of the day, I had at one time 4 of them. I've dropped 3 of them. There's only one that I keep. I have a CISM through ISACA. I keep it A because it was really hard to get. It was as harder than the CISSP. And B, it's the one that applies to what I'm doing now, right?
Sure,
I mean, information security manager. That's who I am. So, you know, so I keep it for those reasons. I'm proud of it. I maintain it, and I keep it out there. It's actually, you can't see it because you're all just in audio, but it's actually on the wall behind me.
I'll validate that for the listeners.
I do keep the cert up there, so, you know.
Nice. Yeah, Security Plus is always my go-to when people ask. I think Cybrary actually has some cert program now as well.
Do they? I know they have like badging and stuff, and that's at least something, right? Like you can even do some of their titles and go through and, you know, and things like Try Hack Me and Hack the Box too. Like they have all sorts of stuff to at least legitimize the work you've done. So, you know, those are all things you can list too. And I wouldn't be shy about listing those in the cert field if you can. You know, just, hey, you know, play the game. You know, if hiring managers or their systems are going to force that on you, the hiring manager may not even like that. It does that. So, you know, just play the game, fill something in there. Just make sure it's justifiable, you know.
One other aspect I want to hit on quickly is, you know, I don't want folks to underestimate the power of networking and joining organizations. There's many legit security organizations out there that cost nothing that you can gain valuable information from. And one of those organizations is WESIS. And yep. I know the WESIS chapter in Philly very well. I know you have some involvement in WESIS as well. And I'm just curious if you have any other thoughts on, you know, maybe other organizations that you would suggest folks get involved with.
Oh my gosh. There's tons of communities out there. So you mentioned WESIS. Yeah, I'm actually part of their equity advocacy committee. That's a mouthful. I'm also still at least somewhat involved in their BISO affiliate, which I don't know if they're going to keep me now. I'm not a BISO anymore. I'm a CISO, but whatever. But yeah, WESIS is a great one for women in cybersecurity. And honestly, they want allies too. So if you're not a woman and you still want to join, please do. There's, Cyber Jitsu Society or Society of Cyber Jitsu, any local chapters of various groups like, ISACA, ISSA, all of those. A lot of those, you can go to those chapter meetings and you don't have to pay or be a member. You can just go to the meeting. You'll get probably pressured to join, which again, consider finances on that because some of them do cost a fair amount of money. But, look into those, the DEF CON groups, especially if you're more on the hacking side of things. But actually check out your local DEF CON group, even if you're not into hacking, because a lot of them are a lot broader than that now anyway. Chicago area has a really cool group called BurbSec. I think there's one in Kansas City that's similar to that. I'm trying to think of what it's called. Down in Texas, if you're in the Dallas area, there's the Dallas Hackers. So a lot of those are really good. And then also look for even just the local security conferences that you can go to, local B-sides or other just, area conferences that exist. A lot of times the cost to enter for those is pretty cheap, especially if you're a student or something. A lot of times they'll have scholarships or they might just have free student passes or at least highly discounted passes. We do that. I'm on the board, as I mentioned before, for 2 conferences, Blue Team Con and Circle City. And I know Blue Team Con for sure. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure Circle City as well have student level tickets just to, again, make it accessible and help people build that network. I mean, I can't stress enough how important those networks are for even just finding a job. And I think you'll hear a lot of people in the industry tell you that, and they're not just blowing smoke. It's, my last 3 jobs came because of my network through events and social networking, and to that end, even Twitter and LinkedIn can be great places to connect with other people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I would urge everyone that's looking to get into cyber, just go to one conference or one networking event and you'll be hooked. I mean,
yeah. 2 tips for that really quick. If you're going to go to your first conference, go with somebody. Yes. If you can. Try and find somebody who's been to conferences before who wants to go with you. Always great if you've got someone that can kind of show you the ropes. You'll feel far less awkward and far less overwhelmed. B, strongly recommend don't make your first conference DEF CON. There's 30,000 people in Las Vegas for that conference alone, and it gets so overwhelming. People have been in the industry for 10 years will go to that conference and who've gone to other conferences will go to that conference for the first time and be overwhelmed. So just try not to make that your first hacker conference, because at this point it's so huge. It might give you the wrong impression. It's great. I love DEF CON. Don't get me wrong. It's just don't make it the first one.
Yeah, that's good advice. Let's talk about your new book quickly. Yeah. Cybersecurity Career Guidebook. You talk to us a little bit about the driver there, what people can expect. Where can we find it? Is it out yet?
Yes, it is out. It's shipping. I've been having it pop up in my Twitter feed over and over again because people are getting the book and tweeting about it, which is honestly really cool too. But it's from Manning Publications, so you can just go to their website to purchase it. That is the most cost-effective way to purchase it. You can go through, the major retailers too, Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's available through all of them. It is available on Kindle now as well. If you have other ebook platforms, you can get other ebook platforms direct through Manning as well. They have all the EPUB formats supported. So, you've got all those options. It doesn't matter to me where you go to buy it. But the easiest way to get there, if you really just want to get it and get it for cheap, go to alyssa.link, LINK, /book. Could I make it any easier?
I don't think so.
ALYSSA.link/book. And yeah, that'll take you right to the Manning page. It takes you to the discounted page where you'll get it cheaper there than anywhere else. They don't have free overnight shipping like Prime, but you're also going to be paying, I think, last I checked, like $15 less for the book. So,
okay. Got it. And I'll get that link up on the site too. So it'll just be one click away. Now, geographically, where are you located in the world?
I'm in the Midwest. I'm a little bit north of Milwaukee.
Okay. I picked up on that Midwestern accent.
Oh, yeah. See right there. I just did it. Not even thinking about it. It happens. So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm curious, like in your area, or you travel a lot. You've traveled, doing a lot of talks. Where's the best bar that you've ever been to?
Yeah. I'm embarrassed. And I'm embarrassed because it's in my hometown. All the places I travel and everything else, I think one of my favorite bars I've ever been to actually is, it's called Blue. And it's on the top floor of the Pfister Hotel in downtown Milwaukee. And what I like about it, see, I'm not one that's into high energy bars. Like I don't like the or sports bars or any of that stuff. Like I don't dig any of that. I'm the type of person, I like wine bars. I like piano bars are cool because they're a lot of fun. But I'm generally more chill. Like if there's jazz or something playing, and that's kind of what Blue is. It's this rooftop bar. Well, I shouldn't say rooftop. It's not open air, but it's the top level. You have a beautiful view, not only of downtown Milwaukee, but of Lake Michigan. And yeah, it's a lower key bar. When they have live music, it's usually like jazz or something like that. So it's, not ripping your ears off. You can actually have a conversation with the person you went to the bar with. Everything is very lounge style. So it's all, nice, comfortable chairs and little tables. That's my style bar. Yeah. And just, so that sort of thing. Yeah, that honestly, of all the bars I can think of I've been to, I think that is actually my favorite.
That's awesome. You don't even need to leave town to go to your favorite bar.
No. I mean, to be fair, I've seen similar bars in other cities too. But yeah, that's the one.
All right. I just heard last call here. You got time for one more?
I got one more, yep.
All right. If you opened a cybersecurity themed bar, what would the name be, and what would your signature drink be called?
Oh, you didn't tell me I was going to have to come prepared. What would I name a cybersecurity? Oh, God. I'd probably call it We're In.
We're In. Nice.
Signature drink. Boy, that's a harder one. Just call it the happy dance. I mean, that's what I always did. I always did my pone dance, right? There we go. We'll call it the pone dance.
The pone dance. There it is.
Sounds fair. I like it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Alyssa, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Enjoy Vegas and be safe.
Yeah, you do the same. Hope to see you there. Take care, everybody.
As you know, Barcode is where security and IT professionals hang out after a long day. So, get your message front and center to our fans by sponsoring an episode. Learn more at thebarcodepodcast.com/sponsor. Cheers.
Unfortunately, it's time to shut the bar down for this episode. Thanks for stopping in. See you next time. We'll save you a seat. Be sure to check us out at thebarcodepodcast.com.